Hey everybody, so today I wanted to talk about evolution, and this is something I started thinking about when I listened to Brett Weinstein on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had this theory that evolution has a component to it that allows it to adapt to become better at adaptation, in a way accelerating its own progress, right? And so that got me thinking. I had always kind of thought of evolution as linear and passive, um, or at least passive to an extent. So uh, the uh, the way evolution kind of works, there's kind of two sides to it, I guess. There is the idea of natural selection, which is not, it's a very passive process as far as evolution goes, basically the idea of survival of the fittest. So it's more of the absence of something than the presence of something, the way it works. So the natural selection process of evolution is that it works by shrinking the gene pool by eliminating creatures that don't have good survivability. So the the passive process that way is that creatures with weaker genes don't survive, don't reproduce, and so you're only left over with the better genes, and those creatures reproduce. The natural pressures of the environment eliminate the weakest of those. More extreme conditions eliminate weak, stronger and stronger ones, leaving only the top set of genetics. If you expand this over, massive time scales, that causes major changes. And then there's an active side to evolution in a kind of linear way of thinking, is that the biology of creatures is responding actively to environmental pressures and causing adaptations to those environmental pressures in real time. Now, those changes can't happen very fast because it's limited to the constrictions of biology, but that's kind of the way I always thought of the active process of evolution. Now, Brett's theory was that evolution has a process to accelerate itself. And so this would kind of suggest that there was a predictive aspect to biology that allowed it, that it had developed and allows it to predict that evolution needs to accelerate faster than it is in ways that it needs to increase its survivability faster than it is to ensure survival more. And one of the examples he used, which is a very fascinating thing and definitely makes you ask questions, is humans are so much more advanced in many ways than any other animal. And we can survive in many other environments that no other animal can survive in. Or at least most other creatures can't survive in. And it's not because of our biology, but it's kind of a product of our biology, I guess, but it's not because of our physical attributes, but because of our mental attributes. And so one thing I'm curious about evolution is if it follows a Pareto distribution, with this idea of kind of exponential growth of evolution, if you look at the ability for animals to survive in a wide array of habitats, does that distribution follow the Pareto distribution principle? The idea that 80% of effects come from 20% of the cause is the original definition of it, but many things follow this distribution, like economics, crime, website traffic. And if you think of this as far as like the website traffic example, the 20% of the websites get 80% of the traffic, right? So many things follow this principle pretty closely. And kind of makes me wonder, if you break down evolution in a way where you are measuring evolution by a creature's ability to survive many variety of environments, and also being able to adapt rapidly, so the speed which they can adapt to new and changing environments, I would think that puts humans at the furthest point along this path. And I would be curious if it followed the Pareto distribution there. I couldn't find any great information on it. It didn't seem like anybody had really tried to break this down in that way, and many people break down evolution in different ways. But it seems like if you broke it down in this way, humans are by far the most advanced in that aspect, and it makes me think that it could possibly follow that same distribution. And so Brett put this idea out that evolution has a component of it that adapts itself to increase the speed of its adaptability. So it's kind of like compounding interest. Every time your interest compounds, your interest rate is involving the initial sum plus the interest you've accrued. And so the next time it compounds, you're gaining a larger number overall. So the percentage might not change, but your overall increase in accumulation is accelerating, you know. And the further down this line, the faster it continues to accelerate. So I was kind of thinking that your brain is a product of evolution, right? If the evolutional theory is correct, your brain's a product of evolution, and your brain is kind of broke down into two separate chunks in my mind. At least in the most simplest form, you have your subconscious and your conscious. Now, your subconscious is your more animal instinct, very old side of your brain, and that's a very reactive form of intelligence. And then your conscious is a very proactive and predictive form of intelligence. And if you kind of think of what we do with our intelligence as humans, and what all animals do with their intelligence, is you advance technology and you advance strategies to increase survivability. So we've done this by creating tools back in the day, by learning how to use fire, things like this that have allowed us to survive easier and survive in a broader range of environments. Clothing is another one, shelter is another one, that we have created using our intelligence to increase our range across environments and situations that we can survive in. And so you can kind of think of our intelligence is kind of a supplemental form of evolution. the things we do with our intelligence is we supplement for ways that our biological evolution has been constrained, right? And you so if you think of this like housing, like polar bears in the Arctic have developed like fur and their biology specifically to withstand the pressures of the Arctic winter, right? And all the unique challenges that environment presents. Humans, on the other hand, if we were left out in the Arctic winter, just with our biology, you just stuck a human out there naked, they would last an hour maybe before they would die. If it's 40, 50 below ambient plus wind chill, you could be down 60, 70, 80, 90 below pretty easy. You would, yeah, I would imagine you would only survive maybe an hour before you froze to death. But because of our intelligence, we've developed clothing that allows us to be out in there for longer periods of time. We've developed housing and heating to allow us to survive up there long periods of time. We've also developed transportation that allows us to get food and supplies up there. And so you do have people who live in the Arctic for extended periods of time. But it's not because of our biological evolution, it's because of our intellectual evolution that's allowed us to do this. So you can kind of think of our intelligence as kind of a supplemental form of evolution. We're supplementing our own evolution with our intelligence and our ability to manipulate the environment and create tools and technologies. And that's been going on for a while now. Ever since really the creation of tools and the discovery of fire, humans have been supplementing our evolution. Now we have AI, and so in a way we're going to supplement our intelligence, which will allow us to supplement our evolution even more. But I think we're actually reaching a point currently where we're going to take the next step where we won't only be supplementing our evolution, but we'll be augmenting our evolution. So if you think of things like CRISPR, the idea of CRISPR, if you don't know what it is it's a technology that they use bacteria to modify DNA in cells. And so it allows you to modify DNA in a way where you get the genetics that you want. I don't believe it's allowed in humans yet. There's speculation that possibly China has done it to humans before. But it's a very gray area whether that is going to happen. But it is something that we've been developing kind of along these same lines of survivability, right? And the other thing that I think is fascinating that's just at its initial infant state is Neuralink, which will be able to augment our evolution in a way that is very fascinating, because it will be able to augment our intelligence if you have a brain-computer interface that it can connect to the wealth of information in the internet and possibly AI in the future. But if you think of the brain as operating on electrical signals, which the nervous system does, and you can modify, subtract, add electrical signals to and from this circuitry on command, you can cause biological adaptations. You can correct biological failures. in the body. So like fixing hormonal issues, you know, if you think of electrical signal in the brain causes a hormonal chemical signal in the body that causes a biological response within the body to react. And so with something like Neuralink and CRISPR, I believe that is kind of a further extension of ways that our intelligence is modifying and supplementing and augmenting our evolution. And this all kind of falls into the same concept that Brett had of the idea that evolution acts on itself in a way that causes adaptations to happen more easily. So at a certain point, humans reached possibly a biological bottleneck in the speed which biology allowed them to advance. And so by developing intelligence, it allowed us to bypass that bottleneck and supplement our own evolution in other ways that was not restricted by biology. And as you can see, we've done that to an extraordinary extent with all the advancements we've made. And kind of this next step of what we're doing is we're kind of turning that intelligence and that intellectual supplementation back around on our own biology at this point to possibly increase the bottleneck of biological evolution and open that bottleneck up. So this is just something I thought of, and I didn't really, Brett obviously was speaking on the idea of evolution acting on itself to possibly increase its rate of adaptation. But I didn't really hear him say anything about the idea that developing intelligence allows you to exponentially change that rate as a form of a supplemental form of evolution. And so I just wanted to throw this out there. So let me know what you think, and have a great day.